It was found in a locked drawer, hidden inside a government archive, buried beneath decades of duster reel of magnetic tape. Unmarked, unlabeled, left to be forgotten. When played, it delivered a sound no one expected. Not voices, not music, but something else. A signal, a sequence. And then a message. It was not Russian, not English, not human. Experts could not explain the structure. Linguists could not decode the syntax. Cryptographers could not break the pattern. But one thing was clear. The voice, if you can call it that, was speaking, and then it ended mid-sentence, as if cut off, as if someone had pulled the plug on the impossible. The tape was quietly moved, transferred to a restricted archive, given a new classification, and removed from official records. But someone made a copy, and that copy survived. It surfaced years later, leaked through an underground collector, shared among radio enthusiasts, passed from hand to hand, with one warning: never play this at night. This is the story of a recording that defies science, a sound that speaks without language, a voice that echoes through time. Some say it was a secret broadcast from another world. Others believe it was a Soviet experiment gone wrong. But no one, not even those who stored it, could explain where it came from or why it still affects those who hear it. This is the Soviet recording that shouldn't exist. In 1985, at a decommissioned military lab outside Novosibirsk, a junior technician named Alexei Voronin was assigned to catalog outdated communications gear. The lab had been shut down for nearly 5 years, its equipment marked for disposal, its files sealed. But before anything could be destroyed, it had to be logged. The process was tedious. Old radios, vacuum tubes, magnetrons, hundreds of reels of magnetic tape, most unlabeled, some too degraded to save. One of those reels, buried at the bottom of a drawer, was different. No case, no markings, no index strip, just tape. Alexei mounted it on a salvaged reel-to-reel player, expecting static or silence. Instead, he heard tones, not musical, not random, but structured, almost mechanical. Then came the voice, not a human voice, not entirely. It had rhythm, cadence, inflection, but no language, no words, only patterns, repeated in threes, followed by silence, then more sounds, longer, slower. As if it was reacting or testing. The tape lasted 11 minutes, then it stopped mid-cycle, abrupt, as if the source had been interrupted, cut off, or withdrawn. Alexei played it again and again, each time noticing more detail, more modulation in the tones, more intention in the pause. She reported it to his superior, who confiscated the reel and ordered it logged as classified anomaly. Code name object 16 Echo. Within 48 hours, a team from Moscow arrived. Not scientists, not military, but internal security. The kind of people who did not explain themselves. They removed the tape, sealed the room, and instructed all involved to forget what they heard. The only reason the story survived is because Alexei made a duplicate, a low-fidelity cassette copy recorded late at night, without permission, kept it hidden for years, buried in a box, until he defected in the early 90s, bringing it with him across the border. The cassette eventually found its way to Germany, then to London, then into the hands of a collector known only as Petrov. Petrov claimed to have dozens of Cold War anomalies. But this tape, he said, was different. They played it once at a private gathering and never again. Because what happened during those 11 minutes, he said, was not a coincidence. A guest began shaking, sweating, then collapsed after hearing only the first 3 minutes. She said later that she could see something in her mind, but refused to describe it, only saying it wasn't speaking. It was listening. The tape became known in collector circles as the Soviet signal, and for years, no one could prove it was real until the original copy resurfaced with Alexei's initials on the label and a date, September 10, 1985. Once the recording reached the West, it was copied, digitized, and passed through layers of analysis. Acousticians, linguists, code debreakers all tried to make sense of the sound, but the patterns defied expectations. It began with a low pulse, repeating exactly every 3 seconds, then a short burst, 5 tones, rising, falling, then silence, then again, exactly the same, 8 times. Then something changed. The signal became less uniform, more organic, as if adjusting, learning or responding to something unseen. The tones changed. Pitch shifted, duration. Some sequences were mirror images of earlier ones. Others were completely new. And then the voice returned to the untrained ear. It sounds like distorted speech, modulated electronic, not synthetic, but unfamiliar, like a human trying to speak through a machine, or something else, mimicking speech without understanding it. No known language matched the phonemes, no dialect, no encryption key, no cipher, but hidden in the waveform. Analysts found repeating structures, clusters of frequencies that mirrored known speech rhythms, yet lacked recognizable content. They called it ghost language. Cryptographers assumed it must be a code. But the sequences did not repeat. They evolved, shifted, expanded. Some believed it was not a message, but a response, a kind of call and answer. But no one could identify the caller. Team at Cambridge University built a spectrogram, trying to visualize the sound to look for images or patterns within the signal. What they found was strange. At exactly 7 minutes and 22 seconds, the waveform bent not just in shape, but in timing, as if space and rhythm distorted for 3 seconds before returning to normal. The tape, they confirmed, did not glitch. The signal itself bent. Others began experiencing strange effects while listening, not fear, but pressure, a tightness behind the eyes, or the sense that something was behind them, watching, waiting. A graduate student who studied the waveform suffered migraines for a week. Another reported waking up at precisely 3:03 a.m. for 5 nights in a row, with no explanation. One listener said he felt as if a memory had been placed in his mind, a place he had never been, but could describe in detail: a long corridor, dim lights, and something at the far end, moving. No transcription was ever completed, no code ever broken, no language ever identified. But everyone who heard it agreed on one thing: it was not random, it was not noise, and it was not human. After the recording resurfaced in Europe, quiet interest turned into quiet fear. Those who had made copies began destroying them, not because of danger, but because of what they began to feel: a sense of being watched, of being followed, being studied. Nothing provable, no threats, no visits, just a sense, deep and constant. In 1996, a researcher in Vienna, known for collecting Cold War anomalies, suffered a total systems failure on every device he used to study the tape. Computers, recorders, backup batteries, all died within minutes of playback, and only when the tape reached the 6th minute. The lab technician who reviewed the incident wrote one line in his notes: "Signal rejects observation." By the early 2000s, the remaining copies were held by only a few, one in Poland, one in Argentina, and one in Canada. Each owner had heard the full recording. Each described different effects, but all agreed something about the signal felt alive, not like a creature, but like a presence, a force, not malevolent, not friendly, just aware. In 2010, an anonymous leak posted what was claimed to be the full 11-minute tape online. It lasted less than an hour before it was taken down, not by copyright, but under national security order. Forums that hosted it were purged, threads disappeared. Even archived pages returned error messages, No one has successfully uploaded the full signal since, only fragments, short clips, each distorted, each altered. Former Soviet intelligence officers, interviewed in documentaries decades later, confirmed that the original reel existed and that it had been classified under a program called Operacja Gromporation. Thunder, the project, they claimed, was not about broadcasting but receiving dozens of abandoned facilities across the USSR equipped with massive antenna arrays, all pointed outward, not at enemy states, but at deep space. They were listening for something, and one day they heard it. The tape was not a message sent from Earth, it was a recording of something that came in. A burst caught only once, never repeated, never located, and no one, to this day, knows where it originated or if it will ever return. From the moment the tape surfaced, debate followed. What was it? Who made it? And why did it sound like a voice that had never lived on Earth? The most conservative theory was that it was a hoax, a Cold War fabrication meant to test reaction or confuse foreign intelligence. But audio engineers, cryptographers, and former Soviet scientists all agreed. No one in the USSR had the tools to create the complexity heard on the reel. The signal was not synthesized and not layered. It was continuous, precise, and far beyond what was possible with the analog gear of the time. Another theory claimed it was a numbers station, like those heard during the Cold Wars, shortwave broadcasts used to send coded messages to spies, but this recording lacked numbers, lacked format, lacked origin. Number stations always repeated, always had structure. But this signal never looped and could not be traced to any known frequency. A more fringe theory emerged, based on anomalies in the waveform itself. Some researchers noted the signal contained recursive data patterns within pattern structures that folded into themselves, suggesting it was not just a message, but an encoding of space or time. Some even speculated that the recording was a form of technology, not just information, but function, an audio construct designed to do something when played, to awaken. Opinion transmitters believed it was not a transmission from space, but from time. The signal may have originated in the future, or from another timeline, a glitch, a ripple captured accidentally by Soviet receivers during a solar flare or a geomagnetic anomaly. If true, then the voice may have been human, just not from now. Then came the idea of non-human intelligence, not alien in the Hollywood sense, but alien in thought, in structure, in perception, a consciousness that does not communicate the way we do. But try as using patent algorithms if it were studying user introducing itself. In the only way it could, a few researchers pointed out similarities between the Soviet recording and certain deep-sea transmissions, long-wave anomalies, and unknown electromagnetic bursts detected by NASA probes. None matched exactly, but the resemblance was enough to disturb. Some say the signal is still out there, broadcasting, not on any human frequency, but through the fabric of reality itself, waiting for someone or something to answer. Most stories fade, most tapes degrade, but the Soviet recording refuses to disappear. It resurfaces quietly, in forums, in collector circles, in anonymous drops, and always with warnings. Never listen alone, never wear headphones, never play it more than once. Alexei Voronin, the man who first found the reel, disappeared in 2003. New official missing persons report was filed, but colleagues confirmed he vanished without a trace. His apartment was found untouched, lights off, door locked from the inside, cassette player missing, no evidence of struggle, no sign of departure, just silence. Petrov, the collector who held the longest known copy, stopped responding to emails in 2012. His archive went offline, and his collection was sold anonymously. One of the listed buyers claimed ownership of the signal, Today the full tape remains lost to the public. Only degraded samples exist, short loops, distorted clips, fragments of the original 11 minutes. Audio researchers still try to rebuild it, piece by piece, from the surviving data, but none have succeeded. Some say it's for the best, that the tape is not meant to be heard in full, that it was never meant for us at all. The story has become legend, a ghost in the wires, a voice from nowhere, a transmission with no return address. And still the question lingers: who sent it? What did it want? And why did it stop? Mid-sentence, own researcher, who studied the waveform for over 10 years, wrote a single line in his final report. The message is not in what it says, but in what it does to the mind that listens. Today, a few still search for the full signal. Some believe it holds a truth we are not ready to hear. Others believe it was never a message, but an opening, something that was closed, something that is still open, something that can hear us now. No one knows where the recording came from or where it went, only that it was heard once by those who still remember it and still fear it. Some believe it was nothing, just static, just sound, but others believe it was the first contact, not from above, but from somewhere else, and that whoever or whatever sent it in is still waiting for us to answer. New mysteries are revealed every week. This is the Midnight Channel, where the strange never sleeps.